following video will demonstrate how to install Sevis glass block using the Mortar anchor method. The Mortar installation system is designed for use with the Sevis 4-inch thick series and 3-inch thick series glass block. This system uses the wall anchor method to secure interior or exterior panels framed on 4 sides and interior panels framed on 2 or 3 sides. Sevis glass block mortar spacers and glass block mortar will also be used to produce a clean, consistent 1/4 inch joint resulting in the traditional grid look finish. To complete your project, you will need Sevis 4-inch thick series or Sevis 3-inch thick series glass block, Sevis glass block mortar spacers, stainless steel panel anchors, stainless steel panel reinforcing, expansion strips, white glass block pre-mixed mortar, glass block silicone sealant. Additional tools for installation include a mortar pan, sponge, rags, wire cutters, tin snips, screwdriver or power drill, caulking gun, utility knife, metal file, tape measure, striking tool, a level, a rubber mallet, a bucket, a trowel, and rust-proof screws. To prepare your glass block spacers, assemble the 2-piece spacers to fit either the 4-inch thick series glass block or the 3-inch thick series glass block. When properly assembled, 4-inch spacers will have 4 open holes visible on the crossbar. When 3-inch spacers are correctly snapped together, the crossbars will completely overlap each other. There will be no open holes visible on a 3-inch spacer that is ready to use. The assembled spacer should rest on the inside edges of the block. When stacking blocks, the spacer should stabilize the blocks and prevent any slippage. Assemble as many spacers as you will need before starting your project. We will refer to these spacers as regular spacers. Regular spacers will need modified for use in corners and along the sill and jambs. Using tin snips, you can create an L-shaped spacer. The L-shaped spacer is used for the bottom corners of the project. Typically, only 2 of these spacers are required per project. Where glass block meets the jamb and sill or curb, except for the corners, you will modify a regular spacer to create a T-spacer. File off any burrs on the spacer so that it will sit flat. Be sure to prepare a supply of regular spacers, T spacers, and L spacers before you begin your project so that your panel construction can continue without interruption. To prepare your panel anchors, bend each panel anchor 90 degrees, approximately 4 inches from one of the ends, to produce a short arm. To prepare your expansion strips, trim the expansion strip based on the distance between anchors and the width of the glass block being used. Before using mortar, do a dry test run of your project to ensure that your block fits the opening and you have an adequate supply of prepared spacers. Mortar should be prepared to a paste-like consistency. Please refer to the following chart to give you an idea of the number of blocks that can be installed per 50-pound bag of mortar. To begin your glass block installation, prepare the rough opening, making sure that it is level and plumb. Using a trowel, apply roughly a 1/2 inch mortar bed to the curb or floor. Place an L spacer at the lower outside corner of the project. Place a T spacer at the opposite lower corner of the block with the crossarm up. Slip a 16-inch long piece of trimmed expansion strip between the block and jamb and push the block firmly into place. Slip a T spacer between the block and jamb on top of the first block so that the crossarm is on top of the block. Apply approximately 1/2 inch of mortar to the vertical edge of the second block that will contact the preceding block. Place the second block using a T spacer on the bottom and a regular spacer at the top with the crossarm between the 2 blocks. Push the 2 blocks together. Follow this procedure for all remaining block in the first row, except for the last block. Install the last block similarly to the first block, inserting an L spacer at the lower outside corner so that the crossarm is at the bottom between the block and curb. Check periodically to ensure that the blocks are straight, level, and plumb. If you find a problem, adjust the block into place with a rubber mallet before proceeding. Apply an approximate 1/2 inch mortar bed on top of the first row. Apply enough mortar so as not to leave voids or air bubbles in the joints. Place a glass block against the jamb. Mortar is not used between the glass blocks and the jambs. Use the spacers that are already in place from the previous row for correct positioning. To ensure alignment, place a T-spacer against the jamb at the upper corner of this block. Continue installing each block as you did with the first row. Temporarily remove the previously installed T-spacer at the jamb and apply an approximate 1/2 inch mortar bed on top of this row. Next, install the panel anchors at both jambs. Use 2 screws per anchor. Lightly press panel reinforcing into the mortar bed along the entire length of the panel so that it is completely embedded in the mortar. Panel reinforcing is always installed in the same horizontal joints as the panel anchors. Make sure the panel anchors and panel reinforcing overlap each other. If more than one section of panel reinforcing is needed in a joint, overlap them by about 6 inches. Additional mortar may need to be applied to fully cover the anchor and panel reinforcing. Reinsert the T-spacers you previously removed. Panel anchors and panel reinforcing are to be installed in every other horizontal row of block. Proceed with the remaining rows as previously described, installing expansion strips along the jamb as you continue. Check frequently to make sure your panel remains level and plumb. Before setting the final top row of block, make sure to install panel anchors and reinforcing in the last horizontal joint. This may result in 2 consecutive rows having anchors and reinforcing instead of every other row. Allow the mortar to dry for about 30 to 60 minutes until it just begins to set up. Do not permit the mortar to completely harden. To prevent scratching the glass, do not use abrasive materials for cleanup. Twist off the spacer tabs on both sides of the panel. With moderate pressure, run the striking tool over all of the joints. Striking removes excess mortar and compacts the joint to create a smooth, concave, moisture-proof seal. Fill any voids with mortar. After striking, use a damp cloth or sponge to remove the excess mortar from the block face. Rinse the cloth frequently. There will be a dry film remaining on the blocks. Allow the mortar to dry for 2 to 3 hours and then wipe off the film from the faces of the block using a soft, dry cloth. On both sides of your glass block project, use glass block silicone sealant to fill the outside perimeter joints of the panel. If your glass block project will be used as a shower or other wet wall, wait approximately 1 week and seal the mortar joints on both sides of the project with tile grout sealer. Reseal the joints every 2 to 3 years. Congratulations on completing your glass block project. We hope you enjoy the beauty, durability, security, and light-enhancing qualities of your glass block projects for many years to come. These are general instructions for installation of a project anchored on 3 sides, a curb, and 2 walls, using the panel anchor mortar installation method.